Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Business Live. Coming up, Ghanaian Cedi projected to be the biggest beneficiary after gold prices reached more than $5,000 an ounce. But how sustainable is this? We shall be finding out soon. Also in this bulletin, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Esiama, warns improved economic indicators will not automatically lead to significant policy rate cut. What really are the expectations of businesses? We will be engaging them. Plus, telecoms and digital chamber call for the speedy rollout of the SIM re-registration process to help fight against mobile money fraud.
What we are requiring now is improvements to ensure that, as we go, biometric features, etc., are all improved and the process becomes more friendly when it comes to verifying data.
Details of these and more for you. Please stay on. Glad you could make time to join us here on Business Live. I am Pius Kojobaka. And look now at our stories. The city could be one of the biggest beneficiaries as a result of gold prices hitting record levels in years. More in this report.
The development should mean that if prices should stay at this level, the expected revenue from gold exports will go up. That could immediately improve the Bank of Ghana's reserves if a significant portion of what is earned is brought back into the country. In 2025, the total earnings of gold exports was more than $20 billion. Therefore, this latest development will put the Bank of Ghana in a strong position to support the Ghana Cedi when needed through their Forex intermediation program. The central bank's reserves currently stand at around $13.8 billion. Now, a significant portion of these reserves was achieved by the Bank of Ghana buying more gold locally and later selling it to hold the dollars as reserves. One of the major reasons for the city's perennial depreciation in every first quarter of each year are fears by businesses in the city will depreciate in the coming months because we don't have enough reserves. So this development could go a long way to address that problem. The IMF, in its recent staff report, noted that the rally of commodity prices on the international market has been a major contributor to the current recovery the Ghanaian economy. So if this assessment by the IMF is anything to go by, then we could make an intelligent guess that the recovery of Ghana's economy could be fast-tracked to very interesting levels by the end of this year.
All right, so let's analyze the sustainability of this development. Joining us via Zoom is a senior lecturer at UPSA, who is also a senior fellow at the Africa Policy Lens APL, Dr. Eric Boachi-Adom. Thank you so much, sir, for making time to join us here on Business Live. And how will the rise in gold prices affect Ghana's economy, given its significant reliance on gold exports?
Thank you very much. I think that as a country, we started redefining the foundations of the Ghanaian economy somewhere in 2022, when we decided to shift our dependence on the issuing of Eurobonds to shore up our city. Before the turning to holding more of our reserve in gold, we used to issue bonds to support our currency. But I think the decision that was taken at the time and further continued by this government is redefining the future of the country. And the continuous upward movement in gold prices, I think that it will help us to be able to improve on our reserve and also have substantive reserve to support the Ghana Cedi. We should also be mindful that there has been some sort of an inverse relationship. If we look at the trajectory or the relationship between gold prices and the dollar, anytime gold is doing well in the international market, it means that the local economy in US, they are generally not doing well in the US, and the US dollar will be at the downside. You know, when things turn and the US dollar tends to do better as compared to gold, that means that people are saving more, or countries are saving more in the dollar. It also have its negative effect, you know. So we just have to be able to invest in strategic positions at the time that gold prices are good. We should also be mindful that if the gold price goes up relative to our other commodities like cocoa that we have depended on it for some time, it makes the cedi improve against the dollar. We heard recently a comment from the cocoa board that the expected yield, the expected inflow of dollars to pay farmers, cocoa farmers, are not up to that. We are not getting enough. So we just need to find a fair balance, that we don't trade one risk for the other, and ensure that we're able to save enough, shore up our reserve. We should not consistently be burning our dollars to support the cedi alone, but let's invest in strategic areas to be able to ensure that in times where there's a change or there's a swap and the gold is not doing well so much in the market, we would have built enough reserve to support the cedi.
All right, so help me understand this. How should the Bank of Ghana respond to the potential influx of foreign exchange from gold exports, and what impact could this have on monetary policy, really?
So already in the last 9 months last year, the Bank of Ghana, I think, injected around 10 billion. Yes, they have retooled the injection to intermediation. But if we look at the overall architecture of the Forex market, we come back to the same argument that it's Bank of Ghana that is pushing the dollars into the system. But you see, in nation building, there's a trade-off. If that is what the Bank of Ghana and the government has decided to do, to trade off in terms of allowing the market, to be able to supply the needed dollars. If we look at the total import of Ghana, we ranges between $20 billion to $25 billion. At best, we go around 30 billion. So if Bank of Ghana injects about 10 billion, which is about 40% of the total dollars that are needed to support our import activities, it means that the market by itself will not be able to produce, or in terms of buying and selling, we cannot be able to produce the needed dollars to support our trading. Yes, we need to support it, but up to what point? Why not invest in strategic areas so that the market by itself will be able to export and earn the necessary or the needed dollars that importers need? If we create a system where it's like we need to put the economy on a sort of managed, in a managed economy, in times where we don't get the dollar to push to support the Ghana cedi, we will have a lot of challenges. So it is a good time, but investing in strategic areas, I think it will let the market stand on its own with that much needed support. If we look at our history in terms of support, every government in the history of our country, at least for the last 20 years, we have done something to be able to supply dollar to the market. But the extent, I think in previous years, somewhere 2022, 2023, on the average, we're doing around 1.5 to about maximum of 3 billion. And be able to, if we've done 10 billion in just 9 months, what it means is that in every year, we should have a minimum of 10 billion or more to be able to support the Forex activities. And it will bring a huge burden on the Bank of Ghana in times where we are unable to find good price for our gold.
Very well. Thank you so much, Dr. Eric. Wachi Adam, I'm glad you could make time to speak to us here on Business Live. Now, to one other leading story we are following up for you. The Bank of Ghana has signaled that the recent improvement in the economy will not automatically lead to the easing of the policy rate. The caution by the central bank is coming as the Monetary Policy Committee begins its first meeting for the year to review developments in the economy. Now, opening the meeting, the governor, Dr. Cedi, warned against rushing to cut the rate by a significant margin. Here's more.
Opening the meeting, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Cedi, explained that monetary policy must remain forward-looking, taking into account both domestic and external risk, including global financial conditions, geopolitical development, and volatility in commodity prices. According to him, sustained discipline and consistency will be required to anchor inflation expectations and protect recent macroeconomic gains.
We are convening at a moment where on one hand, all the economic indicators are looking good, but on the other hand, these very improved conditions must remind us that the work has indeed only just begun. And we need more effort going forward to be able to lock in stability. I must say that this will test our monetary policy in the year ahead. Members, since our last meeting, macroeconomic conditions have continued to improve. Inflation declined to 5.4% at end 2025, with expectations well anchored. External buffers, our buffers have strengthened, with gross international reserves rising to over 13.8 billion, which is equivalent to 5.7 months of import cover.
He also cautioned that sustaining the recent stability of the cedi will depend increasingly on market expectations, even as the local currency posted one of its most stable performance in years.
A second consideration is about foreign exchange stability and expectations. The cedi has been remarkably stable in 2025, reflecting improved confidence and a strong external position. While recent pressures appear largely seasonal, expectations will now play a central role in sustaining stability.
The Monetary Policy Committee is expected to announce its policy rate decision on Wednesday, January 28, 2026.
So what are the expectations of the business community? Joining us now is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Apidwa-Waji. Thank you so much, sir, for making time to speak to us here on Business Life, and good to see you. This year we haven't spoken, have we? Well, what really are your expectations for the policy rate announcement, and do you anticipate a reduction in the rate?
Yeah, obviously, we anticipate that there's going to be a reduction in the rate. We may not see those huge reduction of over 350 basis points, but the numbers looks good. I think it's time for us to consistently reduce the policy rate. In situations where there's a significant reduction, those are extreme cases. But looking at the fact that, I mean, the economy, everything, the dynamics are looking good, I don't see any significant risk ahead of us over the next 3 months that should prevent the central bank or the governor from reducing the policy rate. We have been suffering from huge policy rates and huge lending rates for quite a long time. And now that the numbers are looking good, there is a need for businesses to have some relief. I think that they should give us that benefit. Because at a point in time, if all these benefits we are enjoying, if all the good numbers, if inflation begins to go up, if fuel prices begins to go up, if good prices begin to dip, the only thing that will hold us as a country to a lower inflation rate is the cost of production. So now that we have the opportunity, the room to reduce the policy rate, which will go a long way to reduce the lending rate and reduce the cost of production, I think they should consider that. And I am very hopeful and expecting that on Wednesday, we are going to see a reduction in the policy rate.
Which means that a potential rate cut will impact businesses in Ghana, particularly in terms of access to credit and investment, right?
Obviously, I mean, if you look at the trend, anytime the policy rate goes down, you see the reference rate also following suit. And we've seen the banks also responding positively to the reduction in the policy rate from as high as over 20 to now 18%. I must say that we've seen some reduction in the lending rate as well. So I expect that once the central bank, I'm hopeful once they reduce it, the commercial banks will also follow suit. It's not good even for them to keep the lending rate that high, because you look at the numbers for the non-performing loans, you realize that it's also still high. One of the reasons is that interest rates are high and people are not able to pay for the money when they go for the loan. So if there is a way to reduce the policy rate and also the non-performing rate will go, it's better to lend and get the money than to lend and people are not able to pay. When lending rates are very high, what happens is that businesses will now begin to look out for opportunities with high risk. And those ones, you invest in them, the likelihood that you get your money is very low. So
but Mark, you would agree with me that over the period, we've seen the policy rate, reduced substantially, really. But the question here is that generally, what's the true reflection of interest rates following the successive drops in the policy rate we've witnessed over the period?
No, I mean, the interest rate was hovering around 35%. Now it's around 24%, with a reduction of the policy rate from 28 to now 18%.
18%, yeah.
I mean, the signs are there. If you ask the banks, obviously we realize that the interest rate had come down. So on that score, I think that I'll say a big thank you to the banks. But I think we can do more as a country. And the banks, they lose some of these variables to also reduce their lending rate. So if the policy rate should come down, then the banks will have no option than also to reduce. The pass-through may delay a bit, but eventually you will see the lending rate coming down. So if you really want to ensure that the private sector is doing well, if you really want to achieve a higher growth, if you really want to create the needed employment for people who are looking for jobs through the private sector, then one sure way is to reduce the policy rate and reduce the lending rate. After engaging with a number of our members, I know they have good bankable projects, but what is deterring them from investing is still the lending rate. Go around the West African sub-region and realize our policy rate is still the highest. Our lending rate is still the highest. So we are still not competitive. So once we have the room to reduce the policy rate, I'm not expecting those high reductions, but once you have a room to reduce it, I think that we should do it. It's the consistency and the gradual process that will have a significant effect in the long run. But if you reduce it by 3 basis points and you don't reduce it again for a much longer time, and then you come back, inflation is going up, and you increase it again, will not have any effect. So I share his position. I know he's also afraid of the risk ahead of us. But from what I see, I don't see any significant risk, and we've all done analysis. So at least a 200 basis point reduction for me will not kill the economy. It will rather improve activities of the private sector and increase the growth prospects of the country.
Mr. Mark Bidwawaji, thank you so much. And of course, we shall be talking more after the announcement come Wednesday. Grateful having you, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This is still Business Live. We have more for you after this break. Hello again, welcome back to Business Live. The Digital Chamber of Ghana is calling for the speedy rollout of the SIM re-registration to aid the fight against mobile money fraud. In an interview last year, the Sector Minister, Samuel George, disclosed that government will begin a new nationwide SIM re-registration exercise by the first quarter of 2026. Now, speaking to Joy Business, Chief Executive of the Chamber, Sylvia Owusu-Ankoma, was optimistic that proper synchronization of systems and the deployment of the right security features in the yet-to-be-rolled-out exercise will be crucial and will improve the country's digital identification infrastructure.
Mentioned that it will not be the first time Ghana is doing subscriber registration, right? And mobile network operators in this country have picked the learnings for this is the third time we're going through the cycle, or the fourth if we go through with this. And we need to be mindful of the learnings we've picked up over the years, right? There is absolutely no merit in undertaking an exercise if the database that we have currently is one that, as mandated from the past year, was mapped to the national ID system. So we do have that database existing. What we are requiring now is improvements to ensure that, as we go, biometric features, etc., are all improved and the process becomes more friendly when it comes to verifying data, not as a one-off, but as a everyday usage.
Foolproof, robust system.
Exactly. And it does, to your question, it will improve the level of ensuring that we know people who use numbers,
that are behind the fraud.
For fraudulent activities. They are traceable from a national security point of view. But I also want to add on that, as a chamber, over the years, because fraud is such a big issue for us, we have self-regulated by creating what we call the fraud control dashboard.
Okay.
And with the fraud control dashboard, which is centrally cited at the chamber, it allows mobile network operators to blacklist any subscriber that is identified on their network as having committed, transacted fraudulently.
Now, government has appealed to customs officers to support reform initiatives and deployment of public and artificial intelligence tools at the various ports. The call was made by Deputy Minister of Finance Thomas Janku Ampem in a speech to celebrate this year's World Customs Day under the theme, Protecting Society Through Vigilance and Commitment. More in this report.
The World Customs Day celebration is an annual event by the World Customs Organization to recognize the hard work of customs officers across the globe. This year's celebration, under the theme, Customs, Protecting Society Through Vigilance and Commitment, brought together stakeholders and sister security agencies to highlight the importance of border protection. Giving the keynote address, Deputy Minister of Finance Thomas Ampem charged customs officers to support the deployment of Publican Artificial Intelligence tool, which aims to improve efficiency and boost revenue.
I believe that all of you are aware of the Publican AI tool that we are ready to deploy from next month to help you in your decision-making process. We want to encourage you to support this initiative and make sure it works. We are very determined to ensure that nobody stands in the way of the deployment of this important tool that will help us get the right revenue for the state. Our goal is to build a customs administration that is efficient, professional, and responsive to the needs of both the state and trading community, while ensuring a secure and safe environment for all stakeholders.
Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Kwesi Sapong, reminded the officers of their prime mandate, which is revenue mobilization for the state.
Revenue is prime, and as we say in GRA, revenue is the lifeblood of the nation. Without the revenue, our nation will not develop. And therefore what we do, and I keep on telling each and every one of us, that every day what we do is actually national development, not revenue mobilization. The national development agenda is the key foundation that drives us to do the things that we do that brings the revenue.
Commissioner of Customs, Brigadier General Glover Ashong Annan, emphasized the need for collaboration among sister agencies to improve security.
The core values of the authority evidently affirm teamwork as a fundamental pillar in our service. Therefore, we should deepen collaboration with our stakeholders to ensure border security and public safety. Such collective efforts strengthen our capacity to effectively prioritize the states and deliver on our mandate. The Customs Division adaptation to new security systems clearly demonstrates their competence in service. This positions the Customs Division as a forward-looking institution that can properly safeguard national interests in an evolving world.
Some officers were presented with WCO certificates of merit.
Thanks so much for watching Business Live. I am Pius Kojobaka. See you soon.